why are we why do we have that first half that we had? I just can't get my mind around it. Like, what is leading to everything that we're seeing on the pitch right now? It's just like he can't seem to manage this club. That's the reality. Like, it's so hard to watch. There's no sort of identity with this team. There's no sort of avenue to attack. There's literally nothing to go on to suggest that this is the right man for the job. That is the reality, as much as it hurts me to say it, because I was a massive backer of him. I can't see a way. I can't see a way of this turning around. There's no positivity to take from any of our performances, bar PSG twice and Man City. I thought we put in very, very good performances. Apart from those, are only very good performances that we've put in under Frank. There's been a few decent performances, a few okay performances, but in the last 10 games, it has been diabolical.
It's just too much tinkering, I feel. Again, he tinkered way too much with the lineup. And I think he could have been he could have been braver. He could have put Javi in from the start. I know he didn't exactly do amazing when he came on, but he could have put him in. I think he would, if he would have started him closer to a doggy, I think that could have been something that we could have got much more joy off if doggy had a bit more help on that side. Like that formation 4-2-2-2, that, you know, that's a formation he knows very well when he was playing at Leipzig. I think he could have been a bit braver in his selection, or he could have just stuck with what he did on Wednesday, and he didn't really even do that. I don't understand why he decided to again fiddle with the formation, again fiddle with the tactics. Like, it's just every game he's chopping and changing. I think he feels like, you know, he comes up with all these specific plans, but at the end of the day, you need a little bit of stability so the players get familiar with each other, get familiar with the way of playing. And at the moment, I feel like he's like too smart for his own good at the moment. He's like keeps chopping and changing. He feels like, we're going to change the tactic this week, we're going to play this way, and the players seem utterly confused at the moment. They seem clueless about what they're supposed to be doing and what their way of playing should be on the pitch. And I think that stems from his constant tinkering with the way we're playing from game to game. And it's way too much at the moment. But
regardless, whether we tinker or whether we don't tinker, and look, I agree with you that, you know, it's too many changes game on game. Like, how many different formations, how many different personnel have we used from game to game? It's nuts. But even within that, the principles of the team are not being matched by the principles of Frank in terms of winning your duels, stay compact, clean sheets, you know, how he prioritises clean sheets and stuff. We're so open at the back, particularly in that first half. Like I said before, one ball through the middle, and it looks like every time Fulham are going to score, the only avenue of attack is to get crosses in from wide areas. It's just like, that is a clear method of what Thomas Frank wants to bring to this club, where you only attack through wide areas and you only attack by spamming crosses in the box. It's just like, that is no way to build attack for Tottenham Hotspur. It's not effective. It's not going to work. And it's pure dross. That's all it is. That's all we're seeing right now. And we're acting like basically League One and League Two clubs when they play against big boys. And that's it. Like, what are we watching here? Like, seriously.
I agree. I completely agree. But when I was looking at the players, I see them running, I see them trying to press, but unlike against PSG, when we were getting so much closer to them and we were forcing them to, forcing errors, or we were forcing them to be under pressure, like, we weren't getting close to the Fulham players. We weren't like forcing them into mistakes, apart from maybe in the second half. We weren't being dominant in that way. We were maybe apart from the second half, but in that first half, we were, again, defensively just so passive, and they were just finding it so easy to cut us open with one pass, and it was really horrible to watch. It's really tough at the moment. It's tough. There was a weird moment at half-time as well. I don't know if the cameras picked up.
You talk about when the players kind of gathered at half-time, when the final whistle went.
The whistle goes, and then Bergvall, it seemed, and I think Van der Ven as well, gathered the players into a bit of a huddle in the centre circle, and they kind of had a little bit of a team talk, like between themselves in front of everyone, before going into the tunnel. And Frank charged around the tunnel very quickly after half time. He was writing some notes. I actually caught it on camera. He's writing notes, and as soon as half time whistle, he darts down the tunnel. And the players themselves decided to have a little bit of a discussion, but Bergvall seems to be the one leading the discussion, which is, I don't know, it says a lot about the team and the squad, doesn't it, that he's the one who's doing that. He's like taking it upon himself to take responsibility. Seems very odd to me. Like,
Yeah.
shouldn't it be the senior players? Like, if that's going to happen. And also, I don't know how I feel about it. Why not just get down the tunnel and discuss it in the dressing room? Why are you doing it?
Maybe they wanted to discuss something without the manager next to them.
I mean, that also is telling. Potentially.
I think. I said it last night. I've got a feeling that there are certain players within that dressing room, and I don't know who they are, that don't respect the manager. I feel like some of them are just lost playing under this manager. I feel like they're not buying in to what he's trying to do. I think the report that came out a few days ago saying, you know, some sections of the changing room, of the dressing room, feel like we're trying to stifle opposition instead of focusing on our own strength. I think that plays into it. I think when you saw Mickey van der Ven and Jed Spence just walk past Thomas Frank in that game, I can't remember which game it was, at Chelsea at the end of the game, I think that's a evidence of players not respecting a manager. I think it's clear. I think it's clear that some of these players don't respect this manager. He doesn't command the respect.
And it was, not to like harp on Ange, but last season, this isn't about Ange. It's more about the players themselves. Last season, you didn't see this from the players. You saw like Ange have some instances with the fans, right? You know, he had some clashes, but I don't remember the players having so many public kind of instances of kind of what we've seen recently, like of discontent. We never really saw that last season, even though we were in such a run and we were, you know, finished 17th. We never saw it from the players. And in fact, the only thing we did see is, I remember Tell going into the crowd and trying to, you know, reason with the fans and stuff like that. But at the moment, there seems to be a real frustration from the players, definitely towards the fans, but within the dressing room as well.
Yeah.
It seems to be I don't know what's going on. I don't know if some of the players are, you know, on Frank's side and some of them are not. I don't know if it's split in the dressing room or not, but there's something wrong in the changing room, it feels. Because you don't get all these instances of public discontent if all is well and everyone's behind what's going on and everyone's in favour of what's going on.
Yeah.
And
look, at the end of the day, like I said before, I was massively in favour of having Frank at this football club, but we can't keep going on like this. Like, look, there's something to say, like, you know, stick with the project. They went through this whole 100 manager 10-point process to hire this manager. So if you're part of the hierarchy, you earmarked Frank as the long-term successor for Ange Postecoglou and to take this club forward, and you would suggest maybe they're going to stick with him through thick and thin. But there's just nothing for us to go on right now. There's nothing for us to say like this is the manager to take us forward. Like, with the players that seem to be disrespecting him, with the tactics that we're deploying, with the multiple different tactics we're deploying, with the fan discontent at the moment, I don't know which direction they go in, because do they stick with it through thick and thin and hopefully come out the other end? Because there have been some instances of other managers where, you know, that's happened before, but then there is a question mark to say, like, are you sticking with the wrong man, and are you just going to leave yourself in further trouble if you do stick with it? I don't know the answer to that, but what I do know is, like, things just cannot carry on the way they are. And I think, like, you're looking at our fixtures from now until the end of the year. I generally looked at that fixture list, and it's not like we've got incredibly hard games, but I couldn't tell you a game that we're going to win. That's the worrying thing about it. Like, we've got Newcastle away next. Like, I don't think any Spurs fan can see a win there. After that, we got Brentford at home, I believe. And I'm just like, that game is just a recipe for disaster. Brentford
so it's written, isn't it, for us to lose that game?
That game's a recipe for disaster. And then I think we got, who do we got after Forest? No, then we got Forest away, which, I mean, I can't see us getting anything there. 1st of January, we got Brentford away, so we've got Brentford twice by the 1st of January. And we got Liverpool at home as well. They're winning today. You can expect them to probably come and beat us. It's just like Palace away as well. Like, can you imagine us going to Palace and winning? I can't. Like, all these games, I cannot see a win. So if we keep dropping points, we're 1 point away from 15th right now. By the end of that run, if we don't win, we could be well within, you know, rooted into the bottom half of the table.
How mad is it? Fulham, with how bad they've been this season, versus Dr. Tottenham giving their first away win of the season. With that win, they only go 3 points behind us. How mad is that? They've been awful.
They've been as bad away from home as we've been at home.
I understand that. I'm just saying, it's crazy to think. They've been like we were talking about them potentially being relegation candidates, and 1 win and they're 3 points behind us.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Look, I don't think we're going to get dragged into that conversation. Like, I guess I never thought we were going to finish 17th either last season, and we did.
I don't have a fear of getting relegated, but I've got a fear of just being, bottom half of the table dross.
The question is, if the losses keep coming as they are, and there's not really a viable candidate that everyone's really happy with in terms of like a long-term solution. Like when we keep going back to it, but when it did happen with Nuno, Conte was sitting right there. He was just a natural, the perfect guy to come in and change things. And obviously he was only there for 18 months, but obviously he's a world-class manager, and he did get us playing straight away and got us to top 4 that season. Right now, there's not really a obvious candidate like a Conte just sitting there ready and waiting for the call to come in. So if the right manager, a long-term appointment isn't there, is it just a case of, if the option is, okay, either ride out Frank or get an interim in, like put Cochrane in charge, or I don't know what other interim managers that there would be available, get Sherwood in for 6 months, I don't know. I don't know what other interims are there. What other interims would get, I saw Bleak in the stands, maybe he wants an interim job.
Brendan Rodgers,
but forget, I don't think Brendan comes in as interim, maybe he would, but look, what do
pay him enough, he will.
Maybe, but what is the what would we prefer? Do we prefer having an interim like we did with Mason a couple of times, or maybe put Cochrane there, or do we just ride out with Frank and see if he can just garner something, second half of the season or whatever, and see if he can turn it around?
My opinion would be right at this moment in time to ride it out with Frank to see if he can turn it around, but the worse it gets, the less belief, like the more this negativity and toxicity settles into this football club, the worse it's going to get for him. And, at some point, if it keeps going this way, it's going to become an untenable situation. That's the reality. So the club might be without a choice. However, you look at Arsenal and what they did with Arteta. There was fan discontent. The fans were booing the team. They went 8 losses in a row. Everyone was laughing at them, saying, how are you keeping this rookie manager? His tactics, he's tactically inept. He's this, he's that, he's crap. And they rode it out. They backed him. And they're in the title race and the best team in the league.
It's true, but you know what? I was actually looking into this yesterday because I wanted to see how bad actually was it under Arteta, which they were riding out. And don't get me wrong, there were points where it got really bad, but if you actually look at the start of his tenure, he came in under Unai Emery when they were 12th. They were struggling a bit. From the point he took over until the end of the season, they actually were 6th in the table. So the results did dramatically improve when he first came in. And on top of that, they won an FA Cup.
Yeah.
So he had that credit in the bank. Then the next season did start disastrously. I think after 14 games, they were 14th or something. So it started really bad. However, he did have a bit of credit in the bank, having won the FA Cup and having improved the results. And then that season, after that run we're talking about, he did lose, I think, 7 out of 8 games, or it was a disastrous run. They ended up finishing 8th, and they had a very strong end to the season. I think they won something like 8 of the last 10 or something, like 7 of the last 8 games. So they had a very strong end to the season, and then obviously the next season it improved. So there were things even in that period for Arsenal fans to, or not say Arsenal fans because a lot of them wanted him out, but for the hierarchy to sit there and say, like, there are reasons why to stick with this and reasons why to trust the process, quote unquote. Right now for Tottenham, he doesn't have any credit in the bank. He's coming in a new job. We're not showing any sort of... it's not like, even with Ange, we had that first 10 games to see what he's capable of. We don't even have that to cling on to at the moment, as to say, this is what I'm capable of, this is what I can bring to the team with when everything's functioning. We don't really have that. We maybe have 1 or 2 games. But even then, those on the games, like, it was good, but, like... that's not your bread and butter games. Those aren't the performances you're going to have to be putting in week out. Those are games maybe for specific games like City away where you have to set up in a certain way. Whenever we've played against a team that we have to attack and beat, we've really badly struggled for performances. So that's the difference. Like Arsenal with Arteta and even Klopp with Liverpool. Estelle, I watched the stream yesterday. I know he finished 8th in his first season, but he got to 2 finals. And he also had some really good performances. I remember that I battered Man City at home 3-0, in a really rock and roll performance. They had those key things to show what he's capable of. But with Frank, it's just we haven't seen any of that.
But also, Frank is starting off in terms of squad-wise a much better spot than Arteta and Klopp both started out as. Klopp didn't have Alisson, he didn't have Van Dijk. He had to bring them all in, and they had Lovren at the back, and they're getting cut open. Remember that game that we beat them 4-1, like how easy it was to play through them. Like they conceded a lot of goals because they didn't have the personnel. We've got World Cup winner of Romero. We got Mickey van de Ven. We got fully fledged internationals. Like, I think we've got good players there for the most part. I think in the forward line, the squad can do some work, but I just don't agree with everyone that's saying like, what can he do with the players that he's got? This is not what Arteta walked into Arsenal with, where the whole squad needs to be gutted out. This is not what Klopp had to do, like a whole rebuild of the personnel, of the playing staff. Like, he's actually got a decent squad to work with. Like, I think when you're looking at our squad, we're probably a top 6 or a top 7 caliber squad.
Yeah, for sure. I'm sorry. Look, I'm looking at the team yesterday. I've seen a lot of people on social media starting to jump on the bandwagon. The players are just clearly not good enough. The players are just absolutely rubbish. Vicario is in the Italy squad at the moment. I know he's backup keeper, but he's in the Italy squad. Porro's starting right back for Spain. Van der Ven starts for Holland. Romero's a World Cup winning captain for Argentina. Adoghi's in the squad for Italy. Bentancur has won many titles starting for Juventus and is starts for Uruguay. Paulinho was known as a very good defensive midfielder when he was in the Premier League, when he was playing Fulham. Xavi Simons starts for Holland, and he was one of the better players in the Bundesliga. Mohamed Kudus was highly sought after, and he was signed for 50 million. A couple of seasons ago he got 14 goals for West Ham, and when he was playing for Ajax, a lot of people want him, and he had plays brilliant for Ghana. Mwani's a regular in the France squad, right? So all these international managers just picking shit players. Is that what we're saying?
No, I agree.
You know what I mean?
I agree with you.
I know. I'm not replying to you. I'm replying to the people on social media, or the people who suggest our players are no good. Like Bergval's a great. I know, fine. Bergval, great. They're young talents, and yes, they're not quite at their peak yet. They're teenagers, and I understand they're going to have bad games, but they're still really good talents. They are
a hell of a lot better than what they're showing right now. That is the pure facts, and that is the reality. And anyone, like Danny called in yesterday, I was like, the players that we've got, they deserve to finish. We've probably got the 14th or 13th worst squad in the league. And I'm like, what are you on about? Like, how have we got the 13th or 14th worst squad in the league? Like, we've got decent players there. They should be finishing 7th minimum, at the very minimum. You know what I mean? So I think that whole narrative is complete bollocks. It really is.
And I understand Frank's had injuries this season, but at the end of the day, the players he has had available, should be good enough to implement what he's trying to do.
Injuries should not come into the conversation here whatsoever.
Exactly, I agree.
It shouldn't.
Because for me, as I've said even last year, it's not necessarily about the players that are out, it's the players you have available. And he's got good players available. Last season, we were playing Forster in goal, Dragoshin and Gray at centre-back. Like
Ben Davis.
Like the players he had available were shite. Now I know he's got injuries. I understand Solanke's out. I understand Kulusevski's out. I understand Madison's out. And they would make a difference. They're good players. Don't get me wrong. But who has he got available? He's got Xavi available. He's got Kudus available. He's got Mwani at the moment available. He's got players in the front line who are available to do a hell of a lot better than what we're doing right now. I was looking into yesterday the damning statistics here about where we are as a team in terms of the underlying data, right? We are worse than the 17th place team, statistically. That's including the injury crisis. That's including when we phoned in the league last season. We are worse than that team. I know we're 10th at the moment, but in terms of how we're performing, last season, we were on average making 1.55 XG and conceding 1.67. This season, we're creating 0.92 a game on average XG and conceding 1.43. We are, and if you look at the expected points, we're like 17th at the moment, 18th. I actually think the XG difference is somewhere like 18th. We are worse than when we were last season under Ange. How mad is that? How can you be worse than that team last season who had the injury crisis and phoned in? We didn't even care about the league, and we're worse than that. We're worse than the team who phoned in the league.
Yeah.
That's crazy to me. It's insane. How can you be worse?
The reality is, it is only 13 games into a season. I know it's like a fairly large sample size because he's managed over 20 games.
20
now.
games, 13 in the league.
Yeah, 20 games in total, and only you can count on your hand which ones that we're very, really happy with. there is a case to say, look, I think we're between a rock and a hard place now with what we do and what the hierarchy do now, and I genuinely believe like they've got no choice but to stick with it. What are they going to do? Like seriously, they have to stick with it.
I would stick with it just because of a lack of a clear alternative, but we're not really sticking with it because of anything Frank deserves at the moment.
I think we stick with it. And you make the soundings to Poch for the end of the season if things going this way. Like, what else can we do?
I think not necessarily Poch. I mean, although I would take Poch, but I think we have to start sounding out new managers in the moment. We'll start sounding out potential replacements because I think this is going nowhere and going nowhere very quickly. He seems to. I think the big problem with Frank, and the big problem he's run into, is when he was at Brentford. He had the time on the training pitch to change it and implement new ideas, and he could basically focus a whole week on a game. So he could put a plan together and just work on that plan for a whole week. Well, a completely free week, right? To work on certain things. At Tottenham, he's literally getting a day in between games to work on things, and he's never going to be able to implement different systems, different things, and change it up when he's got so little time on the training ground to change all these things. Unless maybe you wait till we're out of the Champions League near the end of the season, and then we go to 1 game a week, and then maybe he can start to do that. But it's a hell of a long time to wait, until and is that where we want to be? Is that, I think. And to be fair, he did have pre-season, so he did have time to do it then. But obviously, he struggled to really implement it.
Yeah, but we actually started the season well, though, didn't we? Like that PSG game, that Man City in the first 3 games of the season, and those two were like probably 2 of our best performances of the season.
Yeah.
But look, the biggest problem comes when players lack belief and when players are not buying into what you want to do. And if that is the case, like we're not going to be able to change 10, 15 players to suit what the manager needs and manager wants. The manager's going to be the fall guy here. Mm-hmm. And at this moment in time, from what he's shown, that's the way it's going to, and he's going to get what he deserves because he's not managing this football club in the manner in which he should be managing this football club. And as hard as it's to say, then we're probably going to be on a manager merry-go-round at some point. Maybe in the summer, but yeah. It's just hard to take. It really is hard to take.
At the beginning of the season, you were very confident. You said Frank is levels above Ange. Do you still believe that?
I mean, it's 13 games in, so I don't know, man. Levels. Absolute levels. If you put Frank in our Europa League run, he would have won it.
Would you say, do you still believe he's levels above Ange?
I still think he's a better manager than Ange. But right now, he's not proving to me anything I said about him. He's proving me the opposite right now. So I can't sit here and try and defend him anymore. I just can't do it because he's not showing me anything that deserves my defending. Everything that he's showing to me is that he's not fit to manage his football club. That's the reality.
Sank says, how did Ange do it for us? You know what's funny? Ange's Forest is better than what we are right now. That's the truth. Ange's Forest was a better team when you look
Frank's
at
Tottenham won more than Ange's Forest.
He had 5 games. He had 5 games. What's funny is you look at the stats, he was better. Ange's Forest was better, statistically.
Not better in terms of results.
After 5 games, yeah, but from the underlying day, he was. Mad.
Yeah, but look, I think all this stuff about Ange this, Ange that, Ange is gone, man. Everyone just needs to shut up about Ange. Like, there's no point talking about Ange. Like, he's gone. He's not coming back. And he finished 17th last season under bad circumstances, yeah. But just because sacking Ange, in my opinion, was probably the right decision. Hiring Frank, as much as I said it was the right decision at the time, as it stands, it might be the wrong decision.
But was sacking Ange to hire Frank the right decision?
I don't think it has. That's not the question here. The question is, sacking Ange was probably the right decision, but hiring Frank might have been the wrong decision. Like, just because Ange, he finished 17th last season, he won a cup, great. I think if we would have kept on with Ange Postecoglou, and he might have done well, but in my opinion, he probably would have got sacked at some point during this season. So maybe we should have gone for a different manager, but we just got to ride it out with Frank. What can we do?
I think, well, look, we've laid our bed at the moment. We've I think the evidence suggests I think we've made a big mistake with the appointment of Frank, to be like, in terms of how he's trying to get us to play and how he's got us set up. But at the moment we've put ourselves in a bit of a corner, because we sacked Ange after winning a trophy. We've appointed him as part of this big rebuild, and like he's like seen as like a big part of this process. He's seen as like he's seen as a part of that rebuild, hiring Thomas Frank. So I think the hierarchy are going to do everything they can to basically avoid it looking like a massive mistake, that what we've done here.
Yeah.
Frank. So I think they're gonna have to give it as much time as possible, because I don't think they want that on their heads. And part of this, it's embarrassing to do all these things, right? You appoint Vinay, you appoint Land, you do this whole hullabaloo about how we're changing and how all the processes are changing, and we're going different directions and blah blah blah. 10-point processes, 50 manager list, and you land with Frank, and you're looking at the possibility of throwing that away after 6 months. And that would be hugely embarrassing if that's the case. So I think they are just going to give him as much time as possible to try and turn it around.
Yeah, and I think that's the right thing to do. Just give it every chance possible for it to work. Look, I do think Frank is a good manager. I think he did prove that at Brentford. If he can he take that into Tottenham Hotspur, into a bigger club? The jury's definitely out on that now. Like I was convinced that he would be able to, but I said to you after the Chelsea game, I think I said to you that, I'm starting to question Frank more than ever, and now it's even more than that. It's getting more and more every game. So
the thing is, he's a good manager, but there are plenty of good managers for that level. I'm not saying everyone could do what Frank did at Brentford, but look at Keith Andrews. He seemed to be doing all right at Brentford.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, just because you're a good manager at that level does not mean you're good enough to take that step up and manage a team going for bigger things and going for top 6. And in fact, the data suggests it's almost unlikely that ever happens. Most
almost
managers,
unlikely.
Huh? Well, it's almost. I was going to say almost impossible. I think it's a bit too harsh, but it's very unlikely, put it that way, that they ever do make a step up. It's very rare. Like only Pochettino, and has done it really to a really good standard. Most managers really struggle and are gone very quickly.
Brendan did it to a decent standard.
He didn't. Like when he first got there, they finished like 8th in his first season. They then bottled the league in the second, and then finished 8th again.
Yeah, but like he brought Liverpool up to title challenge, which they weren't before, and then he went to Leicester and did an incredible job at Leicester.
He did, and then got them relegated. But that's not him making a step up at Leicester. That's him.
Yeah, but he was at Swansea before Liverpool.
He was at Swansea before Liverpool. Yeah. But I'm saying it's rare. For every let's say Brendan's in the good pile. For every Brendan and Poch, there's about 5 Potters and Hodgsons and other managers. Like most of these mid-tail managers who do a good job aren't actually good enough to make the step up. They're just good enough for that level.
Maresca
was in the Championship. He's very young. We don't know that.
He's doing very well. Yeah,
he's doing very well.
Yeah, so you could probably say he's another example of that's handled the step up pretty well.
Yeah, but that was his first job. He's done well though. But again, he played a different brand of football. A brand of football, an attacking brand of football.
Yeah.
And he was a disciple of Pep, isn't he?
It's mad, isn't it? That title race is Pep and 2 disciples of Pep. It's ridiculous. Eddie Howe is another one.
Yeah, I'm saying that yes, you're naming these managers, but for every one of those, there's about 5 others who failed. Like it's more common they fail than they make the step up.
Yeah.
And that's why I was very conscious of looking at the football he plays at Brentford, and this is why I was looking at that and thinking, we have to judge. It's not necessarily judging him on how he did in terms of how many points he got. It's judging on how he played, and if we want to bring that football to Tottenham, and not expecting him to come to Tottenham and not play the way he did at Brentford.
But even so, like the football that he played at Brentford was still a lot better than the football that he's playing here now. Like he still created a high number of chances. Where are these chances? even in a game where it's able for us to counter-attack. Like yesterday wasn't one of those games. We still can't create chances.
Yeah, because whenever at Brentford, whenever he played against teams who stopped him, who didn't give him space in behind, he did struggle, and that's most of the games at Tottenham.
Yeah.
So we should have seen that. We should have noticed that.
That didn't get past the 10-point process, did it?
Apparently not. But I don't understand the thought process of hiring Frank and saying, okay, we're going to hire you based on the job you did at Brentford, but not based on the football you did at Brentford, because we already played different football at Tottenham. That doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, I think, he must have sold the club that he wanted to play a certain brand of football, and it's not relating on the pitch right now. But it's just a hard time, isn't it, man? It's such a hard time. The home fans are getting more and more toxic as the games wear on. So there will be surely there's going to be a breaking point at some point. You would think so.
We're nearly there. We have players booing a player for making a mistake. We have a player after the game suggesting we shouldn't clap the fans because of it. We're definitely on our way there.
Yeah.
Boiling over. Boiling over.
Yeah. Well, that is. Well, not even just a review of Spurs' shit show over situation. We'll move straight